Hello, everybody, and welcome to Starting Small Music. I'm Justin McCormick, and you're about to hear a conversation with an artist, musician, and music industry professional on their journey and how they got to where they are today. At Starting Small, we like to take you on a journey uncovering the untold stories of your favorite songs and artists. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Just keep a smile on your face and it'll be okay. Try not to be bitter, you gotta do it either way. Keep a smile on your face and it'll be okay. So when life throws a jab, you gotta duck out of the way.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Starting Small Music Podcast. Today we have hit songwriter Heath Warren with us. How you doing today, Heath?
I'm wonderful. I'm still getting used to people calling me that. That's great.
I think you should get used to it, man. You definitely got more hits on the way. So getting right in your story, you grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. What was your childhood like?
Oh man. I think about this a lot. I talk about it a lot. Especially in the writing room. For me, I feel like I was super lucky. I had a great childhood. Albuquerque was a great place to grow up. Not necessarily a place that I feel like I want to raise my family, and I don't really have any ideas about going back there. But yeah, I had a great childhood. When I was born, my dad was a head football coach at a big high school there, and so I feel like I was born with a ball in my hand.
Yeah.
And my mom, she was just always the most supportive and is still today. But yeah, for me, I grew up in a great neighborhood, full of a bunch of kids, and we were always running around. It was a cul-de-sac, and we were always playing sports and played a lot of sports growing up. And you know, my parents bought me a drum set when I was 5 because I asked for one, and most parents wouldn't do that for their kids. So
Right.
they were always supportive about me hanging out in the garage and banging on those things as loud as I wanted to. So I think a lot of the things that I had during my childhood all got me to where I am right now. And my parents and having just a supportive and free childhood, I think is a lot of the reason for what I'm up to now.
Now, did you grow up in a musical family at all? Were your parents playing any instruments or anyone you were related to?
Not necessarily. I think, probably a few generations back, just talking to my grandma a few months back, she was telling me how musical everyone was, a few generations ago. But my mom, she isn't, I wouldn't say she's a musician, but damn, she can sing. She's a really good singer, and she has just a good musical mind, I would say. And she was probably one of the driving forces for me to uh, feel feel music and enjoy music. And yeah, I think I would say my mom's probably the most musical person in the family.
Now, what kind of music was getting played around the house that you kind of feel like kind of introduced you to music, kind of made you feel your first connection to it?
Yeah, that's a great question. We listen to a lot of stuff, man. A lot of country. Uh, my whole family's from West Texas, small town West Texas. So we had a lot of George Strait playing in the background. I remember driving to elementary school. My mom was always listening to Shania Twain or Reba McEntire. We had some Garth playing there, a lot of Alan Jackson. But outside of the country world, um, I feel like we just listen to a lot of oldies,
Yeah.
which I really love too. So yeah, we were always bumping something.
Now, what kind of do you think drew you to the drums, kind of as your first instrument to pick up?
I don't know. I think as far as like the natural music tendency goes, I think there are two types of musicians in the world. I think there are technical musicians, so people that just have a genuine interest to learn how to play music, and then the other musician is the person that I think was born to play music.
Mm-hmm.
And in the most humble way of saying this, I don't know why I had an interest in the drums, but I know I was always tapping on things. I was always, whatever was on the radio, I was already like playing to the beat, and I just had good rhythm, I guess. And it was just I, back in the '90s. Uh, I would, before school, I would always watch like the top 20 countdown,
Yeah.
and it's just like music videos just all morning before I was going to school. And I just always see, the bands playing in the music video, and I'd look at the drummer and just like, damn, that's so cool. I want to do that. So for me, it was a pretty natural progression, I guess. Like, just I think my mom probably saw me having some rhythm, and then uh, you know, me thinking that it looked cool, so it was something that I wanted to do.
Heck yeah. Now in high school, were you kind of starting to play out with any friends or anything? Were you kind of starting to maybe dabble in writing? What was those years like for you?
Um, no, well, yeah, I guess there's a youth like a Christian youth group thing called Young Life
Hmm.
that I was involved in with most of my high school friends on Monday nights. And really the reason why I was going was so I could play like the djembe with my buddy Kevin, who led the music portion of the night for Young Life. And my next door neighbor, my best friend Nate Boitano, he would play lead guitar. So it was just kind of Kevin, Nate, and me on the djembe, and we were leading worship for Young Life on Monday nights. And we started doing that freshman year of high school, and that kind of got all of us into like jamming. And Kevin was always writing songs, and I wasn't writing songs back then, but again, just wanted to be surrounded by music. So I would say sports were goal number one all through high school, but my hobby was doing that with those guys.
That's awesome. Now, take me to senior year. What are you thinking about as the next step? Were you considering college? Were you maybe even trying to get a scholarship for a sport, or were you want to do music already?
It was definitely scholarship for a sport mode around the house, 24/7. Like, we were either in the car or we were on a plane going to visit schools and go to camps and trying to be seen by a bunch of these coaches. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to play football or if I wanted to play baseball. And um, going into my senior year, I had made the decision that I was going to focus on trying to play college baseball, but I was still going to participate in high school football. And um, uh, so yeah, my senior year, I was really focused on a baseball scholarship, and all the way up to 2 months before college started, I was about to pack my bags and go play baseball at Phoenix Community College in Arizona. And the coach there was Coach Rooney, and he ended up moving on to be the head coach at ASU 2 years later. But he's a great dude. But last second, I decided to pull the plug, and I ended up staying in my hometown in Albuquerque and just going to school at University of New Mexico. Um, Tried playing baseball there. They had just had a new coach come in. There were like 46 guys on the roster, I think, and I got cut pretty quickly.
Hmm.
And I still played some summer baseball, and I probably considered after my freshman year of college going to a smaller school to continue playing. But I think at that point I was just immersed in the college experience and having fun with my friends. And pretty shortly after I really seriously decided to hang up the baseball thing. Me and those two guys that I was jamming with in high school, uh, we started a band together, and that band was called Asper Court, and we hit the ground running. It starts small. We were playing like graduation parties and like restaurants and on Saturdays and just weird gigs.
Yeah,
But getting our education in that, and then probably a year into that, we started getting some pretty big gigs, opening up for some pretty big artists, and then shortly after that, we started touring, and that's really where I think I fell in love with the process of being a part of the music business and chasing the dream of, like, you know trying to connect with people with songs.
for sure. Now I see that you spent some time in LA. Did you move out there with those band guys? How did that come about?
Yeah, it's a great question. We had actually been on tour with a band from Massachusetts called The Gallery,
Hmm.
and they're just a really cool kind of Tom Petty style rock band. And they they were moving across the country when they did a few dates with us, and I was in my last semester of college, and we were going to Lubbock, Texas to play a show, and our lead singer in the back of the band was like, "Hey, I this isn't fulfilling for me. I don't think I really care about touring. That's not what I want to do in music." So we played this gig at the Blue Light Lounge in Lubbock, Texas that night, and after the show, I was hanging out with the Gallery band, and I told them, I don't think our band is going to be touring much longer. Kevin doesn't really want to do this like this any longer, but I do. And they opened up their door to me, and they're like, "Dude, as soon as you finish school, you have a place to stay in LA if you want to." So as soon as school was over with, about a month into that summer, I just packed my stuff up, called the Gallery guys, was like, "Hey, if you guys meant what you said back in April, I'd love to take you up on it." And they're like, "Yeah, come on." So 2 days later, I was in LA unpacking my truck, and and I was shown the living room couch that was going to be my bedroom. So
Now, what
we
did
did
those
that.
first kind of couple months look like in LA for you? Were you kind of able to get in some sessions right away from being living with those guys, or did you kind of go out on your own trying to open some doors?
Definitely a little bit of both. Those guys were introducing me to so many people that they already knew in LA, which was awesome. I couldn't have done that without them. Um, and outside of that, I was, making my own connections. I was um, figuring out where and when the drum auditions were for big touring gigs. So I was auditioning on drums quite a bit, um, trying to spend as much time in the studio with the Gallery while they were recording their record with Warren Hewitt, and just trying to absorb everything Warren Hewitt was doing during that process too.
Yeah.
Because I really looked up to Warren and the records that he had worked on, and he was a huge reason. Um, he's a huge reason why I was interested in moving out to LA and just kind of shadowing what the Gallery boys were up to. So yeah, those first few months, we really hit the ground running on music stuff. But I got a phone call. I think I'd been in LA for 2 months, and I got a phone call from a gentleman named Brian O'Neill,
Hmm.
and he worked for the New Mexico Tourism Department at the time, which was, my home state, and they were looking for my college band to write a custom song for this tourism campaign they were about to launch internationally.
Oh, dang.
And I told them, I'm like, "Well, the band broke up, but I'd love to take a stab at writing the song for you." And it just so happened that Nate Boitano, who was in my college band, was visiting me in LA that day. So I take this call, get off the phone. I go to Nate. I'm like, "Dude, I just got a call. They were looking for us." told them the band broke up, but they need us to write this song. Do you want to go and write the song? And we ran back to the apartment, wrote the song that day. I recorded it on my MacBook on GarageBand with this like blue snowball microphone, and built the track out, sent it the very next day. And the next morning, they got back to me. They're like, wow, we really love this. We'd love to license this for our campaign. Do you mind changing a couple lyrics here and there? And then they sent us a check for more money than I had ever seen at that point in my life. And I was like, damn, writing music is easy. Why am I not doing that for a
Right.
living? And then I made $0 writing songs for the next 5 years. But that was, I would say that's what really opened up my mind to the songwriting world for a career.
For sure.
Started researching it and trying to understand how that side of the industry worked. So while I was chasing these touring drum gigs, I started chasing this songwriting idea for pitch. And luckily my roommate, the lead singer and main writer for the Gallery, who ended up becoming and still is one of my best friends, we both just kind of started writing as much as we could with other people in mind. And he and I definitely cut our teeth together writing songs his first few years in LA. And then he ended up moving across the country with me to Nashville, and he's a hell of a songwriter in Nashville too. And we've got some cuts together. Our first major label radio cut was together. So it's been cool growing up with him in the songwriting business, and he's definitely taught me a lot. I think we both learned a lot from each other. So
That's awesome. Now, what was the decision like to leave LA and come to Nashville then?
it was an easy one. Obviously tough to pack your stuff up after feeling like you've probably made a little bit of headway in the music community in LA, which isn't easy to do in LA because so much stuff going on there and it's super spread out. And most people are trying to be an actor, and finding songwriters that want to write the same type of stuff that you do and have the same goal oriented mindset and the same type of schedule. It's so hard to find the music community there. But we went out to Nashville for a week long trip, and I feel like the second we got off the plane on that visit, you're thrown into this music community and feeling like this massive neighborhood of Music Row and Midtown just feels like home. Like it feels like, wow, I am surrounded by 100 people that are exactly like me, and they're all wanting to do the same thing that I'm wanting to do. And then pretty quickly after that trip, I'm like, it's a no-brainer. I'm packing up my stuff, even if it means I have to start over again. I'm moving.
Yeah.
So
So this is probably fast forwarding a couple of years here, but in early 2023, you signed your publishing deal with Warner Chappell Music. What's that process like, and what did it mean to you to kind of sign that deal?
um it's a really big deal to me. I've seen uh the publishing world in Nashville in my 7 years of living there. I've seen a lot of people sign publishing deals their first 5 minutes into town.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a lot of artists that aren't necessarily writers sign publishing deals their first 5 minutes into town. And, you have that mental battle where you're like, damn, how the hell do I get that opportunity? I'm doing everything I can. I'm just scraping by. I'm working all these side jobs just so I can pay the bills. And I really think these songs that I'm writing, have a chance. And, I'm writing with all these up and coming artists. They're putting these songs out independently. I feel like I'm doing everything right and I'm not getting any attention. And having that mentality can be super dangerous. And I think if you're chasing it and it's the only thing that you think you need, then it's not the right approach. And the second you let go of that and you don't worry about what is happening for everyone else, and you just kind of keep your head down, do the grind, do the work, and let your your catalog, your portfolio of songs speak for itself. um your time is going to come. Everyone's time is different. Some bands sign record deals right away, and the rest just doesn't fall into place.
Yeah.
Other guys have all the right stuff and can't get a record deal, can't get a record deal. They just keep grinding, and then their time comes. They sign a record deal, and then their career blows up. So I think everyone's different. And for me, signing a deal, it felt like I achieved a massive goal of mine, obviously, but in hindsight, because I was independent for so long, I got to come in with a bunch of songs in my schedule A, and one of them being a hit song, "Rock in a Hard Place," and it had already been doing its thing. So that's what landed me the deal.
Yeah.
And I'm forever grateful for Ryan Beisel and Ben Vaughn for giving me the opportunity at Warner. It's been an amazing home so far, and I love showing up to work every single day. I feel inspired, and I feel welcomed by them and the staff there. And it's been, to answer your question, it's been life changing. But I feel like I earned it. I earned my seat at the table. I bided my time, and it was the hardest path to get there. But now, I feel at home in a publishing house instead of, I could have signed a publishing deal a few years ago that wouldn't have felt like this one. It could have been the wrong deal at the wrong place at the wrong time. So I am grateful for how everything's worked out.
Now you mentioned 7 years leading up to that deal. What kept you going during that 7 years? Was it just your love for music and this being the only thing you want to do? Kind of what was that driving force to keep going?
I think it's that, man. I think it's a lot of the people I've been surrounded with, because I have had just a few like little successes and some songs that do really well on the independent side when I didn't have a publishing deal. And I mentioned that major label radio cut. Brendan and I both were independent songwriters when we got our first radio single, but the timing sucked. That song came out in April of 2020, like right when we were in the middle of, not even in the middle, we were in the beginning of what the pandemic ended up being, right?
Right.
And it was just a really confusing time for everyone, but especially the country music community, because people are canceling tours. Their years are changing drastically, and now all of a sudden everyone's launching music, just trying to get music out since they're not going to be on the road. So country radio just became busy, and this song was called "Something You Ain't Ever Had." Got cut by a duo called Waterloo Revival.
Yep.
They were signed to Show Dog Records at Universal under Toby Keith, and they were going to be on tour with Toby all year that year. And so when this cut happened, things were looking up. I had been meeting with every publisher in town, and I thought I was about to sign a publishing deal. I thought this song was going to do really well at radio. It had all of the things that you're supposed to have for this song to go. And I thought it was going to change my career. And then, pandemic. So, in a weird way, I think the pandemic tested everyone in more ways than one. But for me, on the songwriting side, it really made me get back to writing songs by myself, and sharpen that tool. And then also diving into the whole Zoom concept of writing and just accepting it, and trying to fill my calendar with as many people that were willing to hop on Zoom as I could. And I think 2020, I mean, I wrote a ton of songs in 2019, but 2020 and 2021, that was when I really felt like I was falling into what I knew how to do best, like what my role was supposed to be in the room and carrying it confidently. So, yeah.
Now, you're currently coming off a 6-week #1 with Rockin' a Hard Place that you talked about. It's hard enough to get a 1-week #1, and this was #1 for 6 weeks. Take me back to the day you wrote it. Who came in with the title? What was the process like of writing it?
Yeah. You know, I tell a lot of people, when you are chasing the hit song job, right? When you show up every day to write a song, and you're like, we got to write a hit, we got to write a hit. You get lost in that, and you start paying attention to what everyone else sounds like. And on that day, we wrote this song on June 2nd, 2021, in my 500 square foot studio apartment in Germantown. And I had met Jet Harvey, one of the co-writers, at a music event, and we had set up a date, and he was interested in getting into the co-writing community. He hadn't really done that yet, so I had Jet Harvey on my calendar that day, and at that moment in time, I was going through a really, really tough breakup. And the night before, I had gone out drinking with my best buddy, Jacob Hackworth. And he was just kind of, Jacob assumed the best friend role of just trying to help me get through this breakup. And so he ended up sleeping on my couch in my apartment, and we wake up in the morning, and he's like, oh man, I'll get out of here, I know you have a right. And I'm like, no, dude, I don't even really know this guy, Jet, but he's going to be here in a few minutes. I just think you should stick around. Do you have anything going on today? He's like, no, I don't have anything going on. And Jacob's a hell of a songwriter and just a hell of a talent. I already knew that. So I invited him to stay. He ends up staying. And, 3 hours later, we have Rockin' a Hard Place. But that process, we, it's a little different than normal days, because Jacob and I were pretty hungover. We go and meet Jet outside, and Jet's got his guitar. He's ready to go to work. And I'm like, nah, dude, put your guitar back in your truck. We're going to walk down the street and grab a coffee and a burrito. And I didn't know this at the time, but now I do. Jet owned an insurance company. So he was taking the day off from work that day to do this. And he's like, what do you mean we're going to get burritos? I came here to work. Like, I need to get back to my job. And luckily he rolled with us. We all got to know each other a little bit at breakfast. And then we get back to my apartment, and Jet had just shared with us a personal story about a trip he just took to Boston with his girlfriend, his now wife. And they had kind of gotten into an argument at a dinner in Boston, and I started spilling my guts on my breakup, and Jet started spilling his on this argument that he had just gotten in, and we just started piecing all of these things together. And I had this title in my phone, between a rock and a hard drink, and then right under it I had Rockin' a Hard Place. And I didn't know how to write the Between a Rock and a Hard Drink song. It was a little bit heady. But my thought for Rockin' a Hard Place was always like in the vein of Hardy, like a rock.
Yeah.
Because I love that song. Obviously, I'm a fan of Hardy and his work, and how smart his writing is. So I really wanted to chase this title where you're talking about a diamond ring and the concept of, we're either going to break up or I'm going to ask this girl to marry me. And that's where I'm at right now. And I really don't know which direction I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And it really felt in line with where Jet was, in his relationship. And it was definitely where I was in my breakup, where I was like, damn, do I fight for this girl, try and get her back, make some changes that are necessary in my life to try and do that, or do I just carry on and just take one on the chin? So I would just say in that right, I think one of the reasons why this song has done so well and has connected with so many people is because we sat there and we told the truth. And in that process of like chasing hit songs every day, like that day we weren't even thinking about that. I think we were actually being vulnerable and real, and we were trying to capture what that feeling and what that emotion actually meant. And you know, everything lined up correctly for us that day, and in a lot of weird ways. And that just goes back to what you were asking about, like the publishing grind, like trying to go and get a pub deal. My timing was like my time started on that day, I think, because pretty shortly after, my life started changing just because of that song. So now I show up every day and I don't give a shit about trying to write a hit song as much as I care about writing the truth and trying to pull the truth out of my co-writers or the artist in the room or whatever the purpose of the write is that day. I'm really just trying to find a way to do that so we can not only like put out quality country music, but like really make it mean something. So I think I learned a lot through writing that song.
No doubt. Now, I like to close my interviews by asking, what's a piece of advice you've learned along your journey that you'd give to the younger aspiring musicians out there?
Oh man, I don't know if I'm qualified, but if you're listening to this interview, I feel like you can get the gist of what my journey's been, and I think it's been far from easy. I don't think any reward in life comes without sacrifice, and having like a really really large support system around you. And for me, if you are chasing this, I would find a group of people that you believe in and stick with them. And things are going to get hard. You're going to learn a lot about yourself. You're going to learn a lot about other people. You're going to figure out just how selfish the world could be. But keep going and keep chasing it. You have to love writing songs more than you like breathing oxygen. You have to be obsessed with it. And that doesn't mean that it can't be fun. But I think you have to take it seriously. And the Nashville music community has been an incredible place for me to do that. And it's been easy for me to connect and surround myself with like-minded dream chasers, but also people that are just more talented than I am and better at writing or better at singing or better at playing guitar or melody or whatever it is. And I don't think it's about letting those things discourage you. I think it's about absorbing them and learning and learning and learning, and then figuring out what you do best and bringing that to the room every day. So any aspiring songwriters, buckle up. It ain't easy, but chase this damn thing, because I think it's worth it. It's been incredible for me, and I wouldn't change anything.
Well, Heath, I think that's some great advice. And everyone go check out his new song, Happy to Be Here with Skis. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Heath.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Skis. Shout out Skis.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment, and check out my music on all streaming platforms at Justin McCormick. See you guys next time.